Oh, all right, so a little housekeeping. We'll get started here. There are some identical charter bills that did not receive any no votes, and we're going to take them up in a block, and that's going to be 1107, 1534, and 1720. Do we have a motion to put them in a block?
Second.
Moved and seconded that those three bills be taken up in a block. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All right, the bills are in front of, and move now that we report the block. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, open her up. Okay, those bills are gone. And we've got a couple of patrons in here. I see Delegate Hodges is signed on the sign-up sheet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. You have before you House Bill 1675, which we actually heard last week. So
That's right. And we did take testimony on this. I know there's been some activity, and I'll let you relate to the committee what the activity has been.
Yes, sir. We have white smoke, as you said, Mr. Chairman. So we have the stakeholders all on board. We worked hard over the week, and everyone has come together. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there is a substitute. Thank you. Yeah. Good morning. Thank you. And there is a substitute, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have substitutes being
Finally got
passed
it
out.
ironed out over the weekend.
I'm going to get the
You ready for
substitute in front of us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Substitute's been moved. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Substitute's in front of us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were some issues raised by the committee last week, which we left and we did address. Senator Bell, you actually had some concerns about some of the language of the original bill relating to injunctions and other judicial remedies. All of that language has been stricken, so that has been addressed. Senator Favola is not here today. She raised the question dealing with public participation and transparency. While the original bill required a vote at a public hearing of the site agreement, we have in lines now in the substitute, we changed it. Look, it appears to be 44 through 45, expanded that language to require that the locality have a public hearing on the siting agreement under another code section, which requires the locality to advertise in a public hearing for 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper. So we've addressed that concern. And then Senator McPike, you raised some concerns that the bill, did not have some guardrails. So we sat down and this substitute now under 30 through 34, that limits the negotiations to the capital improvement plan, things that are in the fiscal budget for the year, in which the notice to locate a facility is, delivered to the locality, things that are in its fund balance policy, or also to assist with broadband deployment in the locality. In addition, on 52 through 55, this allows the applicant to begin a land use process concurrently with the negotiations. And then also on 62 through 64, we got this morning, this acknowledges the concern that there really might be a time when negotiations actually might fail, when we're sitting down and those negotiations fail with a siting agreement. If that should happen, the applicant can still move forward with the land use process seeking that approval. The locality can consider the failure to reach an agreement in evaluating the case, but they can only deny the application solely for that reason. So we've really sat down and hashed this out. We had white smoke and we addressed all the concerns of the committee and have a kumbaya. So we'd like to sing, Mr. Chairman, for this fine piece of legislation.
Mr. Chairman.
So we heard testimony on this, so just questions of the patron, please.
Mr. Chairman, I thank the patron for all the hard work on this. My concerns are satisfied. With that, I move to report.
Moved and seconded that 1675 be reported. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman?
Up, go, slow. Senator McPike.
Thought there was some questions.
Yep.
And I have some folks here that really hashed it out.
I appreciate it.
Sure.
Lines, and I won't belabor this, but lines 30 through 34, I appreciate you putting in there. I'm not so sure those are guardrails. I can drive a Mack truck through a CIP, a general fund, a budget. I mean, in general, when we talked about proffer issues, I hate to bring up the P word, but we dealt with the other P word, which is proportionality. Is there any sort of framework in regards to that, or is it just a laundry list of things and you can throw anything onto it?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, Senator Pike. So in the idea of the conditional use permit legislation that you all have already approved in both houses at this point is to allow the locality and the developer, the solar developer, to negotiate on something that is a nexus. In other words, there can be a zoning condition, a conditional use permit condition, provided that that condition offsets the impacts of the solar project. The desire of the siting agreement, though, was to allow there to be unrestricted funds that were not limited by the nexus test. And there are capital needs of the locality, and we've listed those, the capital improvement program, what's in the budget for this year, and what's in another fund office balance that they have to have, and also broadband. And it basically gives the developer and the locality something to say, we've got these in our plans, and how can the solar developer participate as a good community partner in paying for those plans? In one county, we were able to fund through a voluntary payment agreement, which this would replace. It would fund the entire 911 $5 million proposal that was on the table and approved by Charlotte County. And this would likewise, there's another case in process where we hope to be able to fund their broadband match, so they'll be able to bring broadband to that rural county. So that's the purpose and the flexibility that we've worked out between the solar industry and the counties.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else? All right, moved and seconded that the substitute be reported. Good work, sir.
Thank you.
And actually, I'm going to go outside the sign-up sheet just this once and briefly because I see Delegate Heretic there, and I believe he has similar progress to report.
Mr. Chairman, Senators, House Bill 657, Comprehensive Plan Review for Solar Facilities. There is, as I understand it, peace in the valley.
So we have a substitute.
There is a, yeah.
Moved and seconded that we adopt the substitute. All in favor say aye. Aye. Substitute's in front of us.
And, Mr. Chairman, Chip, had negotiated this out. I was told last night that there was peace in the valley, so I'll turn it over to him to explain what we're doing here.
Okay. Mr. Dix?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So this was language actually in the substitutes that came to you, and let me make sure I've got the right lines. On page 3, and it's lines 76 and 77. And the intention here is that there are times when you have a solar project and you are looking at the substantial accord determination, and that the locality would say, we're going to deal with all of those issues in our conditional use permit condition. And so therefore, the locality would be able to waive this comprehensive plan requirement. And so that seemed to be the consensus between VACO, VML, the local government attorneys, and folks that looked at this. And this is acceptable to the solar industry because if you go in for a solar project and you can work out all the conditions in the conditional use permit, and the comprehensive plan is either silent or not definitive on a solar project, that allows the locality to determine after a public hearing that the conditional use permit conditions would be satisfactory.
All right. Any questions? Questions from the panel? Moved and seconded that the substitute for House Bill 657 be re-reported. All in favor? There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senators.
All right, we'll go back to the sign-up sheet, and I see we have Delegate Aird with us. Delegate Aird?
Yes, yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. You should have House Bill 760 before you.
You're under the heading Unique Bills, Delegate Aird. So.
Okay, well, I hope that's a good thing.
I hope so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, House Bill 760 is a continuation of legislation we passed last session. As a member of the Joint subcommittee of local government and fiscal distress, we would hear a lot about localities failing to submit their CAFR, the comprehensive annual financial reports, sometimes not notifying the auditors, sometimes not notifying the public that they represent. And so essentially what this does is last year we established a requirement for them to notify both the auditor and the citizens of the local government that their audit would be late or when it could be expected, and or continuing to do so at each meeting of the local government. And so this just says that if it is found that they are in violation of doing that, then a court may impose a civil penalty. This is just giving some teeth to that legislation.
Okay.
And so this is a good government bill, and I hope the committee would move it forward.
Any questions of Delegate Aird? I have a technical question,
Yes.
and that is on line 27, and this is probably for staff as more so than you. In the new language, it says if a locality fails to post such notice or make such notice available. But everything prior to line 27 talks about a statement. I don't see any reference to notice prior to line 27. And it's just consistency is all that is.
Oh, I see.
See what I'm saying? So I don't know what the notice is.
Mr. Chairman? If you look at line 23, yeah.
What does 23 say?
Well, it says.
It says statement.
Yep, it says post a statement if the audit is not completed.
Right. But line 27 says if the locality fails to post such notice.
Yeah, so then I'm not sure what the difference is, though.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that posting the statement is the notice, even though it doesn't use that word.
I mean, it just seems like when you refer to statement throughout and then all of a sudden you start referring to notice, it sounds like you're talking about two different things to me, conceivably, but I don't want to be the fly at the party, so if you guys don't think it's a technical problem for consistency purposes in drafting, I need to hold it up here for that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know you're a lawyer and it's hard.
I'm sorry, what? Senator Sproul?
I know you're a lawyer and it's hard for you to understand. I understand.
All right.
Move approval.
All right, it's been moved, and do we have a second? Moved and seconded that House Bill 760 be reported. All in favor?
I thank the committee.
All right, Delegate Aird.
All right, showtime. You can leave now.
Next up, we have Delegate Rush.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here today on House Bill 1611. It allows the town of Dublin to take over its maintenance of its roads. This is at the request of the town manager and by resolution of the mayor and the town council. They feel like they will reach that 3,500 population where they would automatically go into that in the next census, so they want to go ahead and get a jump on it.
All right, any questions for Delegate Rush?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we report the bill.
Moved and seconded that 1611 be reported. Open up the roll.
Did you have a question?
All right, Delegate Rush.
Thank
If
you.
they were all that easy, right?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you.
Delegate McQuinn.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. You have before you House Bill 1688, a bill that looks at addressing the grass cutting on land for places of interment of human remains. And this bill is there's been a lot of conversation, I guess, recently about the disrepair of cemeteries across the Commonwealth, and special attention has been given to historically African-American cemeteries. However, there are some that are in certain localities that need to be addressed, and this just gives those localities the authority to go in, and when the grass is extremely high and it doesn't appear that anyone is taking care of it, to give them the authority to go in and get it cleaned up. And after getting cleaned up, then I guess it would be sort of charged to whoever owns that particular property. And that's only after trying to contact them, again, to address the issue. There's a special exemption for families or churches and the home ownership, homeowners association.
All right, any questions of Delegate McQuinn? Is there anybody here to speak on 1688?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Mike Sherman with the County of Henrico. We'd like to thank Delegate McQuinn for agreeing to patron this bill. We've encountered a number of situations, some of historically African-American cemeteries, some not. The kind of underlying issue here is we already have the authority, where there's, say, an adjacent subdivision, to maintain community standards. But by the way the law is drafted, we discovered that in Henrico, but across the rest of the Commonwealth, there are many cemeteries that are only allowable in ag zones. Not that you're going to be growing any crops necessarily, but because of that language that says we're prohibited in lots that are zoned for an active agricultural use, we basically have an inconsistency in our community and ability to apply this. The code has a number of tools for us to utilize after a cemetery is kind of too far gone. This allows us to get in front of it when it actually is a little more economically advantageous to address the issue before it becomes too big of a problem. Anyway, thank you very much. We ask you for support.
Okay. Anybody else speak in favor of 1688? Anybody against 1688?
Move the report.
Second.
Moved and seconded that House Bill 1688 be reported. Delegate McQuinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Thank you. Have a great day.
Next up, we have Delegate Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I believe I have two bills.
I think that's right, yes.
House Bill 1105, House Bill 1108. We'll start there.
You want to start with 1105? Or?
1105, we can.
Yeah, sure.
House Bill 1105 comes to you at the request of the City of Charlottesville. It simply adds Charlottesville to the list of localities authorized to develop an affordable dwelling unit program pursuant to Section 15.2-2304 of the State Code. The Charlottesville metropolitan area is home to more than 200,000 residents, but fewer than 50,000 of them live in the city of Charlottesville proper. The majority live in the surrounding county of Albemarle, which is currently on this list of localities, and that means that our city and county are governed by two different sections of the state code for planning purposes. If you've been to Charlottesville, you know that the boundary between them is practically imperceptible, and we need coordinated solutions to our regional planning challenges, so this bill would get our city and county governed under the same sections of the state code.
Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Delegate Hudson. Maybe this is for staff, but I'll direct it to the patron first. Senator McClellan had a bill, and I believed it passed out of the Senate, that actually provides a new option for local governments. And I can't remember if it just addressed counties or counties and cities. But under her bill, I believe you could go forward with an affordable housing dwelling ordinance. So tell me how this would relate to Senator McClellan's bill. And I apologize, I don't have her bill number.
Mr. Chair, Senator Favola, and then perhaps I'll defer to staff if they want to elaborate. Senator McClellan's bill specifies a specific set of criteria for a special kind of affordable dwelling unit program, which is still distinct from the rules that govern Albemarle County. It's a different local option, and so our first priority is to get Charlottesville under the same set of rules that Albemarle County is already authorized to use.
If in fact we pass your bill, then it would be easier for the city and Albemarle County to perhaps implement, if they wished, it was local option, the bill that Senator McClellan passed, which has the criteria for.
I would defer to staff on that question.
Mr. Chair, in answering the senator's question, I believe Senator McClellan's bill basically allows anyone to use that specific set of criteria when they have not implemented the ADU ordinance that is in this section of the code. So it actually refers over to this section in saying anyone who doesn't have that ordinance can use this ordinance.
That's a belt and suspender. We have to get you in this then. I get it. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anyone else? Any other questions for Delegate Hudson? Is there anybody here to speak in favor of 1105?
Mr. Chairman, Andrew Clark with the Home Builders Association of Virginia. We have typically opposed this piece of legislation in years past, but given the unique circumstance that the city of Charlottesville is with the surrounding county, it really does kind of make sense to put that territory under this one authority. At the same time, to Senator Favola's point, if the city would opt to choose Senator McClellan's new language, they could do so. So we do not have a position on the bill, but again, given the uniqueness of the situation, we think it makes sense. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, David Blunt on behalf of the city of Charlottesville. I was going to use the same word, unique, just to drill down a little bit more from what the delegate said. Charlottesville is 10.3 square miles. They have just under 50,000 people. That's well over 4,700 people per square mile. The density in the city of Charlottesville is the fifth highest in the state, comparable to Arlington County and the city of Alexandria. And they really do need some special, circumstances, I think, and that this legislation would afford to be able to move forward to address some very unique needs that they have in conjunction with Albemarle County. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anybody speak against 1105?
Move report.
Second.
Moved and seconded that House Bill 1105 be reported. Okay, Delegate Hudson, you've got another one, I believe.
Yes, House Bill 1108.
And this generated a little heat on your side of the Capitol, right?
I think that we have peace in the valley.
Okay.
House Bill 1108 removes the long outdated state cap on salaries for city council members. The caps haven't changed in more than 20 years. They were last updated in 1997. In 2016, the General Assembly asked the Commission on Local Government to study the current salary limits. They determined that accounting for inflation would require increasing the caps by at least 40%. Rather than set new caps, this bill simply removes the caps and grants cities local authority to set their own salaries for their city councils. In drafting this bill, we chose to go that flexible route in large part because the old system assigned salary brackets based on population, and in practice, population is not such a great indicator of cost of living in Virginia. So think of two small cities like Charlottesville and Danville. Both of them have nearly 50,000 residents, but the cost of living in Charlottesville is almost 50% higher, and so the salaries we pay our city councilors don't go as far. So rather than try to come up with a new perfect formula that fits every city just right, this bill gives cities the flexibility to adjust their salaries to their own budgets and cost of living, just like they do for city managers.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Spruill.
A couple of questions. Is that a full-time council?
It would depend on the cities. This bill allows each city.
I'm talking about Charlottesville. Is that a full-time council?
Mr. Chair, Senator Spruill, the city is not the city council is not typically a full-time position. It's a stipend.
Okay, second question, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Senator Spruill.
If you remove the cap, then how much can they really raise themselves up to if they remove the cap?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Spruill, if you remove the cap, that decision would be up to the city council.
What do they make now? I'm trying to see that. What are they?
They're currently, Mr. Chair, Senator Spruill, they're currently capped at $20,000 in the city of Charlottesville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Favola.
No worries. I believe that counties don't have, there's no cap. Is that correct on the Board of Supervisors' salary?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Chairman, Senator Favola, that is true. So this would align cities and counties both in their local flexibility. I would add that there is one line amendment which would address the heat that Senator Lewis raised. Could I ask council to read?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just one line amendment on line 21. We would strike the phrase that starts with notwithstanding. So we would strike notwithstanding any contrary provision of law, general or special.
And Mr. Chairman, we chose to go that route because one locality did raise their concern that they have a separate provision in their city council, in their charter, which has the salaries determined by an independent commission rather than the councilors themselves. So removing this line would ensure that anything that's currently written into a city charter, which is separate, would be respected before this.
Okay, all right, good. We have an amendment before us. Moved and seconded, we adopt the line amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so the bill as amended is in front of us.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Ford.
I'm going to move that we report the bill. There's some relationship between those who will be making the decision on the cap, or if there is a cap, or whatever they decide, the members of the city council, and they are elected by the constituents who will be paying those salaries. So I think the electoral process will serve as the moderating force, and I don't think there's a need to apply a cap. So I move that we report the bill.
Second.
Moved and seconded that House Bill 1108 as amended be reported. Fails. Okay, we've got one more meeting and it stays in the breast of the committee. So-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Leftwich is on there next.
Move the report. That's my man.
No objection. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is House Bill 1385, and it simply allows localities and local governments to extend benefits to members who may serve on a board or commission. The impetus of this bill was the city of Chesapeake trying to fill certain positions, for example, a director of the Redevelopment Housing Authority, and the competition for these types of folks with experience and expertise is competitive. And this is a way to offer extended benefits to them, maybe entice them to come and work in that capacity at different localities, as opposed to the private sector.
Remind the committee that this is identical to Senator Lucas's 349.
I believe so. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Passed out of here 14 with one abstention. And 40 to nothing on the floor.
Move the report.
That's a good motion. Second? Second. All right, moved and seconded that House Bill 1385 be reported.
If I can only have this kind of success in the Judiciary Committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, Delegate Keem, you're up.
Mr. Chair, members, House Bill 707 is simply adding the town of Vienna as in the tree canopy bill.
I don't want to stop your thunder here, but this is identical to Senate Bill 419, which was Senator Peterson's bill, which passed out of local government 15 to zip. Was it continued? Oh, I'm sorry, it's continued. Never mind.
Darn.
You almost
Details.
Almost made it. It was continued over to 15 to 0. So just reminding the committee, not trying to preordain any outcome, Delegate Keene, but.
Senator Peterson and I do overlap with the town of Vienna, so this is on the town's agenda for a while, and we thought that we would give it a try. Basically, as you know, the issue, the state canopy rules for residential purposes is 20 years, and in our neighborhood, I'm sure many of your neighborhoods as well in the urban areas, we have a lot of homes that are being torn down where you have big lots where they tear down the homes and the trees, and by the time you build those big houses, the trees that they plant are really small ones, and so it takes a while before the trees grow back to the same level. And we're trying to see if there's a way we can assure the stormwater damage and other landscaping by requiring the town, just like Williamsburg has an exemption like this, to have a 10-year canopy instead. That's really all it does.
Okay. Any questions of Delegate Keem on 707?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Favola.
I do have a question. Let me phrase it this way. I would interpret this to mean that a developer would have to consult with an arborist, if not the town of Vienna, to determine which trees to plant. So in effect, they would grow fast enough to meet this 20% requirement, or 10% coverage after 20 years.
Mr. Chair, Madam, Mr. Chair, Senator Favola, I think that would be the process. I mean, basically, the town would have ordinances ahead of time so that they'll let people know in advance, if you're coming to our town, if you're building homes, these are the tree requirements.
Anybody else?
I like the bill. I can't remember why we didn't pass it.
Might be a patron issue, but that's another story, because the chap's a good friend of mine, and we're having some issues with some of the other bills right now, too. So.
Let me just ask, and not to relitigate something we've already considered in identical fashion, but does anybody have anybody in the audience to speak in favor of 707? Anybody speak against 707? Now, this will likely remind you, Senator Favola, why you voted.
Likely. Mr. Chairman, Andrew Clark with the Home Builders Association of Virginia. We've had a lot of tree planting, preservation, and canopy bills over the last couple of years. So with that in mind, I think we have two things going on. You've got suburban and urban localities that are trying to increase and preserve tree canopy, while at the same time you've got developers who are trying to get credit for tree planting, preservation, or preserving current tree canopy. So with that in mind, Home Builders, VACO, VML worked on a bill with Delegate Bulova this year that actually directs DEQ to build on existing research that's been done by the Chesapeake Bay partnership dealing with creating incentives for developers to expand tree canopy, to plant trees, to preserve trees. That bill has passed, I believe, both the House and the Senate. The report's expected from DEQ by November of this year. And so I think actually a lot of the research and some of the incentives that come from that report from DEQ will actually address some of the issues in Vienna. I think also locally, as they're doing some of these construction projects, and we've worked with localities on this, doing kind of administrative adjustments to buffers, setbacks, siting of the house or driveways or sidewalks, may be able to address some of the tree preservation issues that arise. So we do oppose the bill, but also recognize I think there's legislation moving forward that will address some of the concerns of Vienna and multiple jurisdictions. And I'll add, not to belabor the point, VACO, VML, the home builders, we're actually working on getting together over the interim to try to rewrite some of the preservation and planting statutes that exist in code now. So thank you.
Okay. Now that our memories are refreshed, is there a motion?
That's a nice memory
Mr.
refresher.
Chairman, I'm well refreshed now and moves to take the same action we took on the Senate bill. I can't utter the words to you, Mark, but I'm going to say it to continue to 2021.
Okay. Is there a second? Moved and seconded that House Bill 707 be carried over to 2021. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. See you next year.
All right. Delegate Collins. No Delegate Collins? Making a phone call. Well, that's your lucky day, Delegate Corner.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
I am here on House Bill 1616, which is identical to Senator Morrissey's Senate Bill 961, which is a charter amendment for the city of Hopewell.
That's right. All right, and that Senator Morrissey's bill passed out of this committee 12 to 2. I'm not sure what it did on the floor. And this bill passed out of the House 99 to 0. So are there any questions for Delegate Corner? Anybody care?
I care. I'm going to report.
Thank you.
Moved and seconded that House Bill 1616 be reported. You good?
Thank you.
Yeas 14, nays 0.
We got any other patrons out there? No delegate. He's making a phone call. All right, while he's doing that, I'm going to do a little home cooking here. There are two bills, two charter bills, House Bill 564 regarding the town of Sheridan, patroned by Delegate Bloxham. And I told him I would be glad to move that along for him. As you can see, it amends the town's charter to reflect a shift in elections from May to November, which is the current trend. Passed by the House 99 to 0, which I know we're not supposed to reference, but it did. And having done an excellent presentation on this fine bill, I would move that 567 be reported and seconded. All in favor? There we go. Now, 1492 requires a little surgery. The town of Parksley which happens to be where I was born, raised, and continue to
Oh,
live.
Lord, move the pool, Mr. Chairman.
Would like to also move its elections to November. However, they have council members up in May, and this allows them to serve. They need an emergency clause on this. And so I would move an amendment to add an emergency clause onto this fine piece of legislation, and would hope someone would give me a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we add the emergency clause onto 1492. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep, Senator McPike.
The change of term to 2 years, I did see the town's ordinance requesting the change from May to November. Was there also an ordinance in regard to the term
Yes,
change
I
to 2
believe it
years?
was. I've got it right here.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I trust that the town of your birth has communicated that appropriately to you, and I'm fine with that.
Well, now that you mention it, let's take a look. Yeah, 4-year term, every 2 years. Let's take a look. Yeah. The mayor is elected for a 4-year term every 4 years, and town council members are staggered with 3 elected for a 4-year term every 2 years. I think that's got it covered.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I
Senator
believe
McPike.
the lines say thereafter all terms shall be for 2 years, as written, which would imply that the term of office is for 2 years, not necessarily the election.
Right.
If maybe council can opine.
Council want to opine?
That, I believe your interpretation is correct. So, Mr. Chair, if the ordinance is not requesting that, there would be a conflict.
All right, so Delegate Bloxham got to sleep in this morning, but he'll have to come next week.
Okay.
We'll carry that over till next Monday. All right, we got anybody? Is Delegate Collins back in here yet? What else have we got that we can do? We've got 1720, House Bill 1720, which is identical to Senator Pillion's 1084. We did that in the block already. Collins, is it? What about Campbell? Oh, she left a voicemail with him. All right. And Collins was here, but where is he now? All right, 2 remaining bills on the docket to be carried over till next Monday. We are adjourned.